Welcome to Thought Leaders, featuring interviews with some of the best minds in the industry. Today's special guest is popular platform speaker, financial columnist, and best-selling author, Tom Martin. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and talk show host. In this segment, we're introducing you into how carriers buy and sell call options for index universal life policies. All from Tom's popular article, Are Caps and Floors in IUL Realistic? And his best-selling book, The Other 8 Advantages of Universal Life. So let's talk about buying call options. Tom, this is going to be outside a lot of our people's thinking. Steve, we don't do options. It sounds like a security, even though FINRA has ruled on this. Not FINRA ruled on it, but that this is still a non-security. But I want to be able to talk about basic ideas behind actually the purchase, right, of these ideas. And let's just look back here and look at this. This is an Apple. And these numbers are, of course, not going to be accurate. We just took this as a picture. Walk us through the basic ideas of a call option.
Okay. Well, Steve, suppose you like Apple as a stock and you think that it's going to go up in price. Apple was trading at $117.27. So that means if you wanted to buy 100 shares of Apple, you would pay $117 a share, so it would cost you about $1,172 to control 100 shares of Apple. If Apple went up 10%, you'd make 10%. If it went up 20%, you'd make 20%. And if it went down 10%, you'd go down 10%. Now let's suppose, if we can change to the other slide on the options, suppose I also like Apple and I want to buy it, but I don't want to tie up $1,100 of money. I can buy an option that gives me the right to buy Apple at a certain time, at a certain price, by a certain expiration date. Now right here, these are June 17, 2016 calls. That means that's when that option expires. And I have a choice of which options I want to buy. Well, right now, Apple's trading at 117. I can't buy it exactly on the money because I can buy it at 115, or I could buy it at 120. So for a premium of $12.30 per option, I can have the right to buy Apple at 115 on June 17th, 2016.
Mm-hmm. So I'm buying it in advance in its future. I'm paying a premium for that. So the carrier is paying that premium out of their general account, going back to yesterday's discussion, paying in the general account, right, if that's what I'm hearing you say. And so I purchase it for that number.
Exactly. Well, this is for a call option on Apple. Mm-hmm. I don't know of any IUL policies that allow you to specify particular stocks, but we're going to start with just a general stock. Yes, so for a premium of $12.30, I have the right to buy one share of Apple at 115 on June 17th, 2016.
Okay.
So, Steve, if you bought 100 shares of Apple at 117, your cost would be $11,700. If it then was trading at 140 and you sold at 140, you'd receive $14,000. So you'd have a profit of $2,300 or a 20% return. Now, if I was bullish on Apple and didn't want to tie up $11,700, I could buy 100 call options with a strike price of 115. Again, that's not right on the money because 117 isn't available. That would cost me $12.30 per share, so I would have $1,236 invested, about 1/10 of the amount of money that you had invested. Now, if Apple was trading at 140 on my expiration date, I'd make a profit of $25 a share, times 100 shares is $2,500. My profit would be $1,064. It would be a 100% return on my money, where you only got 20% because I had less money invested. I had greater leverage.
Okay, and so companies, as a general rule, are buying these options, right, these calls, and they're trying to make the spread and then profit by executing the trade. If this didn't turn out to the positive for the carrier, they would just let it just expire.
Right. If Apple in this case was trading at under 115 or even at 115, you wouldn't exercise an option to buy it at a price greater than what you could buy it for in the open market, so those options would expire worthless. In the case of an IUL, 95% of your money, roughly, as we discussed in the previous segment, is invested in the general account of the insurance company. So that's grown at its 5 or 6% rate and made you whole. So the premium that the insurance company uses for the option play can expire worthless while still guaranteeing that you haven't lost any money.
And that's how we protect our downside. And the only real exposure we have is, of course, the policy expenses themselves.
Right.
Okay. Well, listen, for more information on the mechanics of Index Universal Life and how this information can impact your practice, just click on the landing page address in the video description. We'll be right back with more from Tom Martin.
This is your website. Few people visit, and if it isn't attracting new visitors, it's not doing its job. Now you can drive more visitors to your website through dynamic content and email marketing with CreativeOne's Social Media Elite. Capture quality leads faster and easier. Engage your visitors with informative articles and videos to boost your online credibility. Plus, stay connected with existing clients and earn more referrals. All content is customized for you. It's time to introduce your website to the world. Call your CreativeOne sales team at 800-992-2642 or visit us online at CreativeOne.com.
In this segment, we're introducing you to how carriers buy and sell call options for Index Universal Life policies, all from Tom's popular article, Are Caps and Floors in IUL Realistic? And his best-selling book, The Other 8 Advantages of Universal Life. Now let's talk about this selling these call options. This is a little different because for every trade, there seems to be a buyer and a seller on both sides.
Right.
In this case, who's the seller?
Well, the seller of the call option is often somebody that owns the underlying stock that is planning on selling the stock at some point in the future anyway. For instance, we've been talking about Apple. So right now, Apple, or at the time we did this research, Apple was trading at 117. If you own Apple and think that it's going to cap out at 140, and when it hits 140, you're going to sell, you might want to sell the option for somebody else to buy it from you at 140. That way, if it hits 140, you're selling anyway. If it doesn't hit 140, you keep the premium that you sold on the call option because it's never exercised.
So the seller keeps that.
Right.
Okay, now if when I'm trying to think about how a carrier does that, I mean, is there any real difference?
We'll get into that. We'll talk about the covered call right now on a regular
covered call
security.
first?
So let's look at the Apple option chain right here. Suppose you think that Apple's going to cap out at 140 and not go any higher than that. You could sell in the market the option for somebody else to buy it away from you at 140, and you would get $3.80 for every share that you sold of it. So if you sold 100 shares, you'd get $380. That would be your money. If Apple trades at 140 or more, those shares get called away. You would have sold anyway, but if it doesn't, you keep the $380 premium that you received. So if we can go to the next graphic that shows the covered call option, right up there.
Okay.
You have 100 shares of Apple at 117, so you've got 11,700 invested. You write call options at 140. That means you sell the options to somebody else to buy at 140, and you get $380 for that. So your net investment in Apple at that point is $11,320. Now, if Apple is trading 21% higher by the time the options mature, that's $141.57 is what the price of Apple will be at the time. Whoever bought those call options from you is going to call your shares away at 140. You'll get $14,000. You'd make a $2,680 profit because you've gotten the appreciation of the stock itself, plus you've gotten bought out at $14,000. So you've made a return of 23.7% if Apple is up 21%. If Apple is up only 10% and is trading 128.70, you would have 100 shares worth 128.70, plus you would have kept the $380 premium that you sold the call options for, and your return would turn out to be 13.7%. So that's how a covered call works.
And when we're looking at this from our point of view, of course, all the mechanics is happening behind the scenes. But is this a traditional, what we're talking about in the first segment and now, the traditional way we buy options as from a carrier point of view?
From a carrier point of view, yes, they are buying a call option and they're also selling a call option. When we sell or when we write a call option, what we're doing is we're imposing a cap on our return. We can't earn any more than what that stock delivers after it hits that strike
Okay, let's
price.
just talk about that for a second, because I think this is where we have a misnomer. So because of this, there's going to be a cap on what we can get, but we're protecting our downside. We're giving up something here for that. Am I hearing the equation correctly?
We are protecting the downside somewhat. Still, Apple could end up trading at zero, in which case our stock would be worth zero, but we would have kept the premium of writing the call. So we do have some downside protection, but not complete downside
So
protection.
how does a carrier ultimately protect themselves so they actually don't lose?
Well, again, and carriers aren't buying spreads on Apple. They're buying spreads on a specific type of security that's linked to the index that they're indexing to. 95% roughly of the money is invested in their general account, so only 5% is going out to buy these options. And what they do is they buy a call option, and then they sell a call option at a higher price.
So you can at the same time have two different positions on the same transaction.
Yes,
Okay, now
that's called a spread.
Okay, so in that spread, which we're going to be talking about in tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about that because now you're looking at two different actual sides of the equation, but it's really the same transaction. And I think that kind of, again, gives us kind of an introduction into how the mechanics are happening behind the scenes. Listen, for more information on the mechanics of Index Universal Life and how this information can impact your business, just click on the landing page address in the video description. And for more information on our shows, seminars, and workshops, just follow us out on social media or visit us out on our website. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you next time on Thought Leaders. And remember, keep thinking outside the box.